So normally every year we would put out a Christmas themed episode of the podcast to the podcast public feeds. But this year I thought, with it being a weird year and it being different, why not make use of our YouTube channel? And in this video, I've got a few different content creators that you might recognize sharing their favorite Christmas memories. I'll share mine at the end of the video, but until then, let's start off with the first person.
Hey guys, this is Elliot Hillis from Coin-A-Geek, and I've been asked to do something special for the Reformed Gamers. Logan asked me to do something kind of special, which I think is cool, and he asked me to give my favorite Christmas story. Since this is a mostly gaming channel, I figured I'd tie it in to something gaming related, and just so happens to be one of my favorite Christmas moments ever. And in fact, one of my favorite moments ever, maybe in life. I mean, we have when I was saved, marriage, and then this moment. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that big a deal. Real quick background here to give you some context. So I've been a gamer all my life, ever since I was a little kid, and I could remember playing the Star Wars Vectrix graphics arcade cabinet that existed back in like 1986 or something like that, and being in love with video games since then. However, our family was pretty poor, so we didn't have like consoles growing up. We didn't have a Nintendo. We got some hand-me-down stuff like an Atari at one point that barely worked. And at that point in my life when I had gotten it, Atari was already way past its like prime. People were playing Nintendo and we were getting close to Super Nintendo. So I was always pretty envious because I didn't have anything like that. I did get a Game Boy one year, and that was for my birthday actually, so that doesn't count in this story. But that was a big gift for me. However, finally, sometime around 1996, 1997, so this was going into my freshman year of high school, right around then, my mom said that we were going to be allowed to get a console. And we ended up getting a PlayStation 1. And how that worked for us was that it basically was like the Christmas gift. You know, it was like, hey, every other Christmas gift that you're supposed to get is gonna, you know, we're not gonna be able to get anything else. This is gonna be the one gift and we're all gonna share it. So of course, me being the gamer that I was super happy about that. And even though I knew we were gonna get it, there was still all this time leading up to it that we had to wait to open it because my parents weren't gonna let me open it early, even though I know I wanted it. The other kind of funny thing about this is that they sort of left it up to me to make the decision as to what console I was gonna get. And for those of you who are old enough to remember this, there was a little system called the Sega Saturn. And now Sega at that time had just come off of the Genesis and had hit a bit of a rough patch. They hadn't figured out exactly what kind of system they wanted to get. Going into the next generation, they had like the Sega CD, they had the 32X, and some other variations. And so the Saturn was like, you know, supposed to be their big system. And I remember going into like an EB Games and asking the guy behind the desk if I should get a Saturn or a PlayStation. Sony, remember, at this time, Sony hadn't made any consoles. It's not like they had a long line of video game consoles in their banks here. This was like brand new. And the guy over the counter convinced me that I needed to get a PlayStation. And I remember shaking his hand, and I felt like such a dork afterwards because I didn't shake people's hands, you know, at that age. Also, I almost for like a split second thought about getting a Virtual Boy, but thankfully that thought was fleeting. On that Christmas morning, whatever it was, 96, I think, opened it up. There we had our PlayStation console. It didn't have the DualShock remotes. The DualShock hadn't even come out yet. It was just the standard old generic PlayStation controller. But I got Tekken 1 and Ridge Racer. And yes, the Ridge Racer, that was something that was prevalent throughout most of my young life there. And then, of course, that led on to Final Fantasy VII the following year, which is an entirely different Christmas story that I'll share another time. But that is my favorite Christmas moment, is getting the PlayStation 1 and just being able to have something that for so long I wanted to be able to have, which was my own video game console, and being able to now experience that and be a part of the conversation and get to enjoy new games as they came out.
Hey all, I'm Disciple Live, and my favorite Christmas memory is one of the first few Christmases my wife and I decided that we were going to just spend it with each other. We weren't going to make the trip down to our hometown to visit both her parents and my parents. You guys know how stressful that can be to try to balance those scales, and so we decided to let both sides know that we were going to just do Christmas with each other up here in Chicago. and it was one of the best Christmases I can ever remember. We decided to watch, of all movies, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I had never seen it before, and it's not a Christmas movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a movie that tends to generate a lot of discussion, and it was so nice to be able to just have that quality time and discussion with my wife on Christmas Day. And from that point forward, we decided we were going to try as hard as we could to continue to just spend Christmas with each other, unless some other family member from out of town happens to be in our hometown, and then we can all gather together as a family. But aside from that, on those rare occasions, we pretty much just spend Christmas with each other, and we'll actually have a baby boy here by February 8th, and we'll be spending Christmas with just him. All right, so good seeing you. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas and a happy new year. Take care.
Hey, TRG friends. This is PastorDoostyn here. And one of my favorite Christmas memories is whenever I was 14 years old and my younger sister was 10, we had two big gifts waiting for us at the end of Christmas. Two big bags. There was a blue bag and a red bag. And these were like the big presents for the year, you know. And the way we would normally do Christmas at our house is we would have all of our presents around the tree all month. We're trying to figure out what they are. And then Christmas morning, we're tearing into them. But at the last minute, whenever everything was done, our parents would pull out, you know, the major present for that year. But this year, those bags were just sitting there and our parents wouldn't let us touch them. So, you know, we're wanting to know what's in them. We're curious about it, and we're tearing through all of our other presents, and I don't remember anything else that I got that year, but I remember just this anticipation about this bag. And so finally, whenever everything else was open, they said, okay, you can go open the bags. And so my 10-year-old sister and I, we go to our bags all excited to see what this big gift is, and we open up the bags, and I'm pulling out like long john underwear, and I live in Texas, mind you. And like, okay, what is it? And like this, there was this big like black and white and gray fuzzy hat that like covered my ears and went up in a big point, and like big thick socks, and pictures of all of us, and pictures of mountains, and all this different stuff. And my sister and I are just looking at each other. We're like, man, this is the worst gift I've ever gotten. What is this supposed to mean? What? All this other stuff, and then the big surprise is a bunch of weird underwear and stuff that we're never gonna wear. And our parents are just looking at us and laughing and just like, man, our kids are morons. They don't get this. They can't put two and two together. What they were trying to tell us is that we were going on a family vacation to go skiing in the mountains of Colorado that year. And we had an awesome time on the trip and everything, but I'll just always remember that Christmas morning where there was those two bags and full of underwear and goofy hats and socks and pictures, and my 10-year-old sister and I just being completely confused and dumbfounded by the whole thing.
So I have a lot of favorite Christmas memories, but I think the one that stands out the most to me is when I actually proposed to my wife. And yes, I was one of those people who proposed to his wife on Christmas Eve. But I wanted it to be special, right? You always want your proposal to be special, to be memorable. And so I was working at Apple at the time, and I was teaching these things called workshops where people could come in and learn about a specific program or how to use their iPhone, and they usually lasted about an hour. Well, one of my favorite workshops to teach was the one for iPhoto, because inside iPhoto, you could actually create and order custom-made photo books. And so I got the idea to take a bunch of photos that me and my wife had taken throughout our entire relationship up to that point and create a sort of storybook and kind of a fun photo book for us to look back and go, oh, I remember that, yeah, Sonic was our thing, and here's another funny memory, and here's a picture from us dressed up as Gonzo and Camilla the chicken for Halloween. But as the photo book continued and got closer and closer to the end, it started talking about how the next chapter begins with the answer to a question. And the final picture was actually a picture of the ring that I had bought for my wife. And that was when I took the ring out of my pocket, super nervous, and asked my wife to marry me. And thankfully she said yes. And as I always think back on this is a little awkward, because what makes the story awkward is I flew my wife from Texas to my hometown in Illinois, and I thought, well, I didn't even think about what would happen if she said no, because it's like, you're stuck here, so good luck getting home, I guess. Thankfully, she said yes, and it turned out really, really well. But that is my favorite Christmas memory.
Love you too.
Love you. So those are our favorite Christmas memories, dear viewers, dear YouTubers. Leave a comment down below with your favorite Christmas memory, and let's just have a fun time reminiscing and talking about Christmas. That being said, from all of us here at TRG, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We'll see you in the next video.